What does it mean for men to feel safe being fully human? Unfortunately, too many men grow up believing that they have to hide their emotions, handle stress alone, and prove their worth through strength and self sufficiency. This week, I'm talking with Stefanos Koutsoumpis, men's coach and facilitator of online men's groups focused on emotional well being, connection, and personal growth. Here, Stefanos shares his own experience of struggling with emotional awareness and social connection as a young man, and why he believes so many men feel isolated, overwhelmed, and unsure where to turn for support. We also explore the pressure men face to appear strong and how those expectations can make vulnerability and emotional connection feel risky. And we talk about the power of creating spaces where men can practice deeper conversations, emotional awareness, and authentic connection. Stefanos explains why feeling heard can be so healing and how simply speaking openly about our struggles can reduce anxiety and emotional burden. And finally, we discuss the broader ripple effects of emotional well being and why supporting men's mental health benefits all of us. Stefanos also shares his perspective on curiosity, connection, and creating healthier conversations in an increasingly polarized world. Thank you so much, as always, for listening. Welcome to the Impostor Syndrome Files. My name is Kim Meninger, and as an executive coach and former high-tech leader, my personal mission is to help professionals overcome imposter syndrome so that you can advance your career with confidence. Each week, I interview a new guest who brings a powerful perspective to this conversation, including personal stories, best practices, and new insights. The more we talk about this issue, the more we destigmatize imposter syndrome, recognize that we're not alone, and empower ourselves to access the tools and resources that can help us and those around us. Thank you so much for listening and for sharing with others you think would benefit from this conversation. Welcome, Stefanos. I am so excited to have you here today. This is a really important topic that we're going to be discussing. I can't wait to dive in. But before we get started, I would love to invite you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Kim, for having me in your show. It's so nice being with you today. So I'm a men's coach. I help men be happier with their everyday lives without having, to give up everything. And the common saying here in Greece where I'm is that I'm going to give everything up and go and be a bartender in an island. And this will be my life. So the story is that before you do that, let's see where your life is really at and what we can do with that. And I know that a lot of men are living in a lot of stress. There's a lot of pressure to compete or to deliver something, and there's not enough space for them to come out and be actual humans and human beings with feelings and pains and all the things that we have to deal with. So this is part of my work, and this is what I'm interested in doing and helping men do, be
It is
humans.
so important and so timely. I know that the the headlines or sort of the current conversation about men has been pretty bleak lately. And I think that there is a definite struggle that may be invisible to a lot of people. I know as a woman, I talk with a lot of women daily around the challenges of being a woman in the workplace, of being a woman in the world, and that same conversation doesn't seem to exist as commonly within men's experiences. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit too about what makes this so important to you. What led you to doing this work?
Hmm. It's very important that we have a lot of diversity actually here in the workplace nowadays, and we are seeing that the gender balance is shifting, and this is great. And in the same time, there's a lot of pressure in men to perform, and somehow there's a lot of pressure among peers as well. So it doesn't have to do with gender. And this is something that men used to do in any case, and nowadays they are compared also in means of gender. So this tends to confuse a lot of people. For my part, growing up, I'm from a small city. I'm from a family of four boys. When I was 18, I moved out of my city to study, and it was the first time in my life that I had to tend for myself. Because traditionally, growing as a boy, I didn't know to do much, at least not much around the house. So when I was 18, it was the first time that I had to learn some life skills, actually, which I believe are super important. And beyond those life skills of cleaning and cooking and taking care of yourself, later I discovered that I was missing other important life skills, which were social skills, knowing how to socialize with people you don't know, being, future employees, being friends, being girlfriends, or, trying to do something new and going into a new space where you know no one. How are you gonna be perceived, or how are you gonna behave, or how are you gonna, hold up for yourself? So I was deeply confused, and I remember from my 20s to my 30s to be deeply, deeply confused. And I realized that I missed some positive influences, masculine influences in my life. I didn't know what meant to be male, and I didn't know actually what meant to be a human and how to tend for myself. So I found myself missing a lot of social skills. And through the process of finding for my own and finding mentors and finding people to help, I this is what led me here today. Uh, I came to have a skill of emotional skills, actually a toolbox of emotional skills that can be taught. And I realized that if other men get to learn about how to handle their emotional lives and how to harvest their emotional skills, maybe they will be happier as well. And
Mhm.
this is totally teachable. And this is what I'm doing now and how I got here today. So, in a nutshell,
No, no, thank you so much for sharing that because you said the word human a few times, which really stands out to me. And I think that there's a way, as a woman, I have two boys who are aged 11 and 16, and it is very important to me that they grow up feeling safe to have emotions, feeling safe to be vulnerable, to understand how to have deeper relationships with their friends, with their partners, whatever that looks like. And so I think that I do my best to try to do, my husband does his best, but there's a whole world out there that teaches you what it means to be a man. And a lot of the messaging I think is very harmful. And I wonder what you're seeing in terms of the demand for what you're offering. Do men feel safe to come to your groups? Like, what does that look like for a man who maybe hasn't even gone down the path of thinking about these types of things
Mm.
yet?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so to give some context, I facilitate some men's groups online, purely online. So we're trying to create a space, and it's a virtual space. It's an actual call where we get together, and we are trying to create some space that's safe for people to open up and say what happened in their lives in the past week, what they are afraid of, what are their challenges they are currently facing, and also find some friendships and some accountability for their lives. Because from what I see, men are lonely. Men, 1 in 7 men doesn't have any friends at all,
Mm.
and men don't feel comfortable with speaking about their lives and their emotions with their close people. So it's easier for a man to open up to a stranger in a bar, than opening up to your spouse or to your brother, or to someone you know since childhood. So this is a part of the experience of being in a men's group, where we're giving men space to be listened to. And for many of us, I can't remember the last time we have been listened to. And if I take a personal example from my personal life, some weeks ago I was in a trip to Italy, and when I came back home, I wanted to share some of my travels to the friends I've met, to my girlfriend, to my parents, and I remember that they wouldn't give me enough time to speak my mind.
Mm.
Every time that I would say something, there would be a reply of like having let's get it over with. Let's get to the conclusion. And no, I wanted to share. I wanted to speak, and I didn't have space to open up and speak about something that I was happy about.
Mm.
Now imagine what happens when you are stressed and afraid, and maybe you are not feeling safe about the subject. You are shamed. Maybe there is a lot of shame in relationships, for example, and you are feeling shamed, and you still cannot open up because the other person won't give you the space. And this is something natural. I guess it happens in all human conversations. So we are trying to break this pattern and allow the men that are showing up in our groups enough time and space to really open up and tell what is going on with their lives, what is happening right now, and really let some steam off,
Mm.
because we're not having this opportunity in our daily lives. I don't know if it is because of how society works, or maybe it's, that we don't have a large attention span, but we don't do it nowadays.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I think that what you're describing is human communication skills, right? That I think a lot of people feel are missing because we live in a world that's moving so quickly. There's a lot of immediate gratification that comes from social media, and just it's almost a lost art, right, of these deeper conversations where we can go into the depth that we want to. It's all about like move on, right? We've got other things to get to. So what I love about what you're doing too is you're creating a space for that, but you're also creating a space to practice that, right? For people especially who haven't really had a lot of chances to do this.
Mm, Yeah, exactly. This is what you mentioned, that word practice. This is where magic happens, because we might know a lot of things intellectually
Mhm.
that we are supposed to do, but we are not given enough opportunities to practice them, or enough repetitions when we do practice them. And learning to listen to other people takes some practice, and it takes also some it takes some courage from your side to be able to keep still in silence, so you will allow another person to open up. And when someone speaks, it takes some courage for you as well to feel uncomfortable on his behalf. Maybe you are sharing something and I'm feeling uncomfortable about what you're sharing, so I'm not giving you enough space. I should be able to sit with that feelings myself, and you should have the space to tell me what's going on. And vice versa. Again, when we are sharing, sometimes some subjects are very heavy. I mean, I've spoken with a lot of men who have gone through divorces, tough breakups. They have issues with their jobs. They have issues with their families, and these are hard subjects. And most of the time, we don't want to stay on these things. We don't want others to feel that they are taking pity on us, and we want to feel strong, or there are things that we don't want to discuss at all because they bring some pain. So again, it takes some courage to be able to show up for yourself and speak your mind about what's going on. And just this action of of speaking to someone about what's going on right now and hearing your problems through your own words is purely therapeutic for most of the people. You can feel that some weight is going off from your shoulders when you do that. It's different to think them on your own and numerate on these and go back all the time. And it's different speaking up for yourself and hearing your problems with your own words. A lot of problems are solved like this most of the time.
Yeah. It's so true because I'm somebody who processes my thoughts out loud anyway. It's part of who I am. And I am also somebody who has a lot of anxiety. And so when I'm sitting with a challenge and I'm replaying it in my own head, it always feels so much darker and so much stronger than when I say it out loud and get a chance to get it off my chest. And I know that men often feel pressure to be strong, to be stoic, to not have these feelings. And so I can only imagine the added, the combination of not sharing, but then not feeling like you even can share if you want to.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people think that they are procrastinating or that they are overthinking things a lot, and this is, part of stress of something bad that happens. And we know even from research, and maybe this is helpful to people who hear that thinking of a negative experience makes it worse. Journaling about a negative experience, so actually writing down, it can help a lot. So this can be a first step if someone is not ready to speak up and share it. And again, for good experiences, thinking about good experiences makes them even better. So it's the inverse thing from bad experiences. So thinking and narrating back to good experiences can make them even better. And writing doesn't help that much because it makes them seem, a bit logical. But most of us, we have learned to think all the time back on the bad things and forget about the good ones, forget the good times, right?
Yes, absolutely. That is a big challenge that I often recommend to people too, is just in terms of imposter syndrome and a lot of the self-doubt that we experience, that we adopt conscious practices of acknowledging the positive because our brains are wired to pay attention to the negative. That's going to happen automatically. What we really need is to have some type of a forcing function for the positive because it goes right past us if we don't.
Yeah, they are saying that our mind is like Velcro for bad thoughts and like Teflon for good thoughts. They don't stick at all.
That's a good way to put it. I'm curious because men's groups are becoming more popular, but there are, statistically speaking, right, few men that are in these groups now compared to the general population. What do you think is maybe the challenge and the opportunity with having these spaces where select men, right, men who have chosen to be part of this experience, even if they're skeptical getting into it, come through this process and then they go back out into the lives that they have been part of, where they continue probably to get some of those implicit and explicit messages about what it means to be a man. Do you think that that makes it more challenging for them? Do you see them influencing their own sort of friends and peers in taking advantage of this support? What's that relationship between inside the men's group and the outside world?
Hmm. Inside the men's groups, we are practicing and we're learning emotional skills and social skills. So what you get is a smarter person, actually. So not smart like book smart, but smart like street smart. They know how to handle these terms. Someone has more confidence in what is going on with his life or what he's doing. So what you get when you have a more confident person outside who knows how to manage his own emotional life. This, like you said, this helps a lot other people. This opens up to the world because even through mirroring or even through osmosis, he's letting out this energy. He's more helpful to others because he's happier and he's more balanced. So he's doing more good. And others, just by seeing a confident person, take up something from him. And he's becoming someone who other people will come and ask questions. To other people will come because he's really stoic. He doesn't seem as stoic. So
Mm.
he's a positive influence to the world.
I love that idea that simply by showing up differently, you are influencing the relationships that you have around you because that just makes the ripple effect of their experience in these groups so much more powerful. Do you find that there is a increasing demand for what you're doing? Like how are you attracting people into these groups?
I think that over the years, overall, as a society, we're becoming more aware of mental health, of the importance of mental health, and this also becomes important as a value in our lives. So people believe now that it's important, or they start to believe that it's important to feel good with themselves as well. While I think in the past it was okay, it's enough if I'm alive, if I have a job, if I have some kids, that's enough. So this doesn't cut it anymore, at least for the Western people that I'm speaking to. So the overall the awareness of our society is increasing on that, and this is a good sign because we're growing up, we're maturing. So a lot of men who are showing up, they have a lot of experience with therapy as well. So they have already done some work with themselves before searching men's groups, where they come, a men's groups is like the gym, going to the gym to practice what you have learned and to keep your gains. So something, if we do this analogy. So a lot of men have already heard of men's groups, at least the men that show up in our call, and they are growth oriented in their lives. They are looking to better themselves and to improve their social skills and to improve their lives. So they are looking for something better. And this is also the ripple effect of the group because we all have heard this all the idea that we are the average of the 5 people we spend most of our time with. So imagine how your life would look like if the 5 people you spend most of your time with are people who are looking to grow. They have the growth mindset. They are having their values that are okay. We should be happy as people and as a society. What will happen in your life? I mean, you take out all this negativity that you are having from our everyday conversations, and you shift to a more positive view of the world. So this has a ripple effect really in your life, and it's a long-term effect, and it goes a long way. Someone who is happier, we know, and who has more friends, we know from research that lives longer. He has a better immune system, so he doesn't get sick that much, and he's more helpful to others. He's more altruistic as a person because he already knows how to take care of himself, and he's in good position to help others as well.
I think that's so important too, because I think there's still a portion of the population who doesn't understand men's groups and might see it the wrong way because there's sort of this impression that men still have most of the power, right? Men seem to have an easier time in the workplace. That why are we investing in men's groups, right? When we still have these other pockets of the population that are still struggling, right? And I think that what you just said is so important because men deserve to be supported in their own right. And I mentioned my own boys and what I want for them in their lives, but also they make better humans and the rest of the world benefits from that, right? We are seeing this today in our politics. We're seeing it in lots of organizations that men who do not have good mental health, right, who do not take care of themselves psychologically, have not just an effect on themselves and their personal circles, but on the world. And we all suffer when men suffer. And I think it's really important to recognize that this is an investment in humanity, right?
It's 50% of the population, right?
Mm. Exactly. Exactly. Are you are you trying to talk to people, to men who are not there yet? Like, because I mean, there's obviously a selection bias here, and you could argue that the men who are taking advantage of men's groups are already a little bit further down the road. Right? So they are, you mentioned some of them have been through therapy, they're a little bit more self-aware, they're being intentional about their growth, but then there's also a lot of, sort of men who are doubling down on sort of what we used to refer to as toxic masculinity, right? And some of those behaviors and trying to prove themselves as strong and dominant. And I wonder, do you think that there is a value in trying to actively target them, or do you think it's more a matter of the the osmosis effect that you're talking about of just having the men who are ready kind of bring this back into the world?
I'm from Greece, and this is where dialectics as a philosophy first was developed, and it was a way to have an argument with someone and come on top.
Mm.
So I discovered over the years that, okay, this might seem like a good idea in politics where we're having arguments, but it's not a good idea in human relationships because even if you get on top in an argument, this doesn't mean that the other person is convinced to change as a person. So, in my view, it's not helpful at all to have a direct argument with someone about their views of the world at all. And maybe it's easier to show them some issues with their way of thinking by asking questions like, okay, if someone believes that, okay, all women are trying to take advantage of him, okay, and there are a lot of men who think this way. So it's easier to go there and ask him, okay, what about your mother? Did she try to do that? And what about other relationships that you have heard of? Is X and X doing this as well between them? Maybe it's true for you, but is it in general true? And you're trying to show them that, okay, maybe your worldview is not 100% right. Maybe there is something wrong there. And this is the opportunity to show them that, okay, our mindset affects how we view the world as well. And maybe you had some experiences, but there are conflicting experiences as well. So there's a different world out there and a different worldview out there that you might want to explore at some point. And of course, we're not trying to change people based on our will. They need to want to make some change in their lives and bring some happiness in their lives. So this is the biggest promise. Okay, let's try to find a way to live our lives that will make us happier. We don't want to be the person who is always right, but we want to be the person who is the happiest, right? And this is where we tap into, and this is where I personally tap into in such discussions.
I love that you said that because I think we are operating in a time too, at least here in the US, where things are very polarized and people, their highest priority is feeling right, often in very self-righteous ways, right? We spend a lot of time arguing past each other. There's no conversation, there's no dialogue, there's no opportunity to shift mindsets because when you feel like someone is telling you you're wrong, you dig your heels in even more, right? You don't want to feel wrong. You don't want somebody judging you and criticizing you. And so it doesn't create any space for a different way of thinking. And so what you just said is really important in the context of, how we get more men involved in this conversation, but it's also really important to influence more broadly in the human experience and just really kind of thinking to ourselves, is the way that I'm showing up and the way that I am trying to influence others effective, or is it just more of making me feel better about myself?
It's like the anecdote about the optimist and the pessimist having a discussion about if the glass is half full or half empty, while the realist is drinking the water. So other people can have their arguments, and I don't care. I can have great vacations with my girlfriend, and you can believe all you want about how sketchy is the world, and I'm having the time of my life in a beach somewhere in Greece. So I don't really care about these discussions, and I mean, I can detach myself from toxicity and find some happiness in my life, even in such a world that we're living today. And if I have to make a choice, I would make the smart choice for me, which is to feel better with myself than, going up against a whole system that I want to change. And in the end, I might be wrong as well. I might have the wrong opinion because who am I again?
Yeah, that's a great point. But if you are choosing happiness and peace and positivity, and you're being you're a force for good in the world, shall we say, right? Then who cares?
Yeah, exactly. Who cares?
I am so grateful to you, Stefanos, for having this conversation. I think it's been very insightful. And I know that there are a lot of people listening who would probably love to stay connected to you. Where can they find you if they want to learn more about you and the groups and the support that you offer?
Mm-hmm. The best way to reach out to me is through my website, and it's mindfullife.coach. So it's mindfullife.coach. It's a strange domain. And in there, they can have info about my men's groups. And if anyone applies for the men's groups and they tell me that they are from Kim, I'm happy to give them, 50% off in the first month as a bonus. And I have a small guide with 5 ways to feel happier today without having to start your life from scratch. And this is a free guide. There are 5 mini habits someone can start today, and within a week, start feeling a bit better with himself.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm going to put those links into the show notes. And thank you for the work that you're doing. It's so important. I think it's very needed, and I'm grateful that you're out there in the world doing this. So thanks again for being here.
Thank you for the opportunity, Kim. Take care.
Thanks so much for listening to the Impostor Syndrome Files. If you would like to continue this conversation in a safe and trusted space, I would love for you to join my virtual discussion group every Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. For the past several years, the group has been limited to women, but it is now open, regardless of gender, to anyone who is interested in exploring and troubleshooting common workplace challenges, building better awareness of ourselves and others, and becoming more inclusive allies at work. Check out the show notes for more info on how to find us, and please join us next week for another episode of the Impostor Syndrome Files.